So, I mean, we don't know exactly what President Trump is going to do, but we are looking at now the largest buildup of military assets in the Middle East since 2003 when we invaded Iraq. What does that tell you?
Well, what it tells us is the administration is putting pressure on Iran. This is a classic case of gunboat or coercive diplomacy. Thus far, though, there's no evidence that Iran is going to say uncle. The couple of rounds of talks there, as you know, have yielded nothing. So then the real question is, what does the administration do next? What if our bluff is called? Do we use military force? Against what targets? What's our definition of success here? And so forth. And I haven't heard any of these questions addressed. So I think the administration got embarrassed by the way the Iranian regime slaughtered its own people. It essentially exposed the president's words as empty. But the real question now is what are we prepared to do? Is military force the right way to go about it?
What do you think they need to articulate that they haven't?
Well, what I would do is a very different policy. I would put enormous economic pressure on Iran. That's the reason 2 months ago people started coming out in the streets there. It's the Achilles heel of this regime. They've run the economy and the currency into the ground. What I would do is increase economic pressure. I wouldn't necessarily bring matters to a head. I wouldn't necessarily use military force.
That's been done before. I mean, they did that, and then the people rose up, and then they were killed.
One thing would be to communicate with the opposition, tell them not to come out in the streets. They can't beat the guys with guns. Let us increase the economic pressure. And sooner or later, I think there's a decent chance we'll see defections, either political defections from the regime or the security forces begin to splinter. That's what we ought to be trying to bring about. Well, just think about it. The Iranians have done nothing new on the nuclear or ballistic missile front in the last couple of months to justify a crisis right now. It's not as though a new Iranian threat to the United States has emerged. So why are we turning this into a crisis?
Yeah, Richard, you mentioned opposition, and I think it's far from clear that there is certainly any organized opposition, which again gets to this point that if you were really trying to bring about regime change, I don't really know exactly what you end up with on the ground. I mean, do you have any sense for the coalition or whatever it might be that could come together? Were there to be an opportunity?
No, you raise a great point. It's almost better to speak about oppositions in the plural. It could go any number of ways. And by the way, one could imagine the security forces essentially pushing aside the clerics and taking over the country. One could imagine the country splitting up. One could imagine various groups competing for power and things getting messy. I'm not sure that the ground is prepared, shall we say, for a successful political transition.
Can that be accomplished through military action without actually having a lot of soldiers move into the country?
No, the short answer is no. And the idea that we're going to put soldiers on the ground to bring about a political transition is crazy. Iran's a country of over 90 million people. So we're not going to do that. We shouldn't do that. And the idea that you can engineer regime change from afar using, aircraft and guns and the like, that's a stretch. I just don't see it. Being effective.
You ask about the why now. There's work to do. Clearly, this president is focused on peace in the Middle East. And isn't Iran the missing link when it comes to a broader peace in the Middle East? He wants to follow through on the deal that was done in Gaza and stabilize the region. Why wouldn't he do that now?
Again, Iran is a problem for peace in the Middle East and stability, but I don't think you can pin all that's going on in Gaza on Iran. You clearly can't pin what's going on in the West Bank and Iran. So the entire dynamic between Israelis and Palestinians, yes, Iran has contributed to it by its support of Hamas, but we're kidding ourselves that we think the problem goes away if somehow we reduce Iran down to size. So that's just not the way. It's not what Middle East history would suggest.
Richard, he is making these comments at this gathering of the so-called Board of Peace. Wires now say that the U.S. is pledging $10 billion, but not specifying what that money will be used for. He's making some comments about the relevance of the UN. The timing of all of this can't be a coincidence. What do you make of how much energy does that Board of Peace have behind it, do you think?
I don't think a whole lot. Its first test in Gaza is not going terribly well. Hamas is not disarming. We're seeing Gaza essentially divided by Israel. And again, we're seeing situation both there and on the West Bank getting worse. The ceasefire in Gaza isn't holding. Board of Peace has a larger set of ambitions that's global, but none of our principal allies in Europe or Asia have joined it. And the money is far short of what you'd need for Gaza, much less tackling these messy situations in any number of other places. So sorry to sound skeptical or negative, but I'm pretty skeptical of what it's going to accomplish. Hope I'm wrong. But I doubt it here.
Are you more optimistic about the United Nations and what they are accomplishing here, which is nothing?
Not at all. The United Nations has failed. There's no signs it's going to succeed. Great power conflict has rendered it feckless. So the United Nations is not going to be the answer. That said, I'm not sure a Board of Peace that lacks any European, meaningful European or Asian participation looks like an instrument of the United States. And again, we're not doing what we need to do in Gaza, which is the initial test of the Board of Peace. If we were to succeed there, then I think we could give this some real hope and promise. But I don't see us as yet doing what we need to do to succeed in Gaza.
Finally, Richard, just to come back to military action in Iran, I mean, give me a percentage or prediction here. Do you think that the president, and certainly we're coming off of what he views as a very successful operation in Venezuela, what do you think? More likely than not?
Well, increasingly, it's getting more likely than not because the negotiations are going nowhere. You can't keep these forces out there forever. But you mentioned Venezuela. That was a really limited military operation in both means and ends. So the question is, what are the ends here? And can you achieve them with limited means? I don't see that the administration has thought this through. They certainly haven't articulated it. And the danger, as you know, it's always easier to start these military engagements than it is to wind them up successfully. So this is a president who does not want large wars. So the question is, what is he trying to achieve? And can he achieve it with simply the threat of military force, with a really limited use of it like he did in Venezuela? I don't know about you, Carl, but it's not obvious to me.
I don't know. I think a lot of people think that removing the Ayatollah would be a big step toward peace in the world, Richard.
Say that again, sir?
I think a lot of people think that removing the Ayatollah would be a big step toward achieving peace in the world.
Look, getting rid of this clerical regime would be a positive thing, but there are other people who could take his place, and I wouldn't assume that the security forces, if they were to take his place, would be demonstrably better. And again, it's not obvious that a use of military force will bring about those results. Again, I think we'd be much more likely to achieve a regime change through the use of economic pressure than military strikes.
Yeah, I mean, if that could be done. All other presidents have just watched them spread terror around the world for decades.
It could be done. They're weak. The regime has never been weaker since 1979. I would say we should stay the course, increase pressure on Iranian oil exports. That's their one cash crop. Let's go after that.
Richard Haas, thank you for weighing in. We appreciate it as we wait to see what President Trump will do here. President Emeritus of Council on Foreign Relations. Coming up, Kraft Heinz CEO Steve Cahillane. He joined us back in December when he took the new job to basically execute a split of the company into two firms. Remember this?
The opportunity to do very similar things to Kraft Heinz that we did to Kellanova is absolutely real, right in front of us. I think the planned separation is very exciting. We did that at Kellanova, Kellogg, to great success.
Well, now the company says it is pausing that split, and Cahillane will join us exclusively to explain why. Next.